It's Betting Weekly Game Bet Match. It's the final time this week that we look to the matches in Basel and over in Vienna here on your number one betting podcast, Sports in Association with Bet Rivers, your hometown sports book. Before I introduce you to Sean Calvert, please hit the subscribe button. I say it all the time. Going to keep doing it until we get some more subscribers. We want you to hit the subscribe button. We want to hit the like, ring that bell, be notified of every time any bit of content drops on the Betting Weekly Studios. Huge week on Champions League football, Europa League as well, Premier League, and also extra time this week, as well as the best content across America as the baseball season comes to its conclusion. Good afternoon, Sean Calvert. How are you, my friend?
I'm all right, thank you. Yeah, it's a nice, bright, sunny day here in the southeast of England. Yeah, nice. I'm all good, I think. Yeah, you?
I'm okay. Yeah, I'm good. Not having the best of time at the moment with the betting. Not just said at the tennis, but last night I had a good night in the Champions League. But prior to that, I had a bit of a Champions
you had
League.
Erling Haaland, didn't you? Anytime goal scorer, from what I saw.
I know you don't like a minus money shot, Sean. I know it's not your kind of thing. But Erling Haaland at minus 110, minus 115, minus 120, that kind of price every time to score a goal is just the best value you've got at the moment. 14 matches this season, 13 times he took to the pitch he scored. He's still betting around about even money.
We could do with him down West Brom.
We could do with some value bets like that on the tennis show, because we're minus 10 units heading into the final weeks of the season. We need him at West Brom. We need him at QPR as well, but it's not going to happen. Haaland, if you want to bet him, we'll be discussing him on the Premier League show. But this show, it's all about tennis.
At QPR.
Yeah, I don't think he can afford him either. He's his agent now, so he must cost him a fortune. Anyway, we have two matches in Basel we are going to discuss, and two matches in Vienna in the 500s. Now, these matches are tomorrow on Thursday. Remember, as I've said all week, it's an early start. The tournaments over in Basel start around about 5 o'clock in the morning, I believe, and Vienna is 6 o'clock. So let's start with two matches in Basel, and the first match we are going to discuss is quite an interesting match, actually. It's between the man who was rising up the world rankings and he got injured, Ben Shelton, up against an opponent in Jaume Munar, who's had an exceptionally good year, sort of floated underneath the radar, but he's done very well, and he's just outside the top 40 in the world rankings. These two have met 3 times before, and Jaume Munar has won 2 of them, including 2 already this year, 6-2, 6-1 in Rome on clay. And then he beat him 6-2, 7-6 in Dallas in a fast hard court. So this is not a gimme at all for Ben Shelton. Ben Shelton was far from impressive in his return from injury in Shanghai. Very, very unimpressive as well in Basel, where this tournament here where he struggled against Mike Schack. And he's up against Munar, who has looked good. Got beat by Djokovic in Shanghai, but then he won Bertola in the first round here. And he's a minus 240 favourite, Ben Shelton. Plus 185 is the price of Jaume Munar. 2.5 spread, 23.5 is those totals. Plus 185 Jaume Munar. If you want to get on the Asian hat, the spread 2.5 looks a big price. Set bet in there as well as over total sets. I think there's about 52 markets currently on the Bet Rivers website. And if you download the app, Jaume Munar's got to be a bet here, plus 185.
Yeah, I mean, he's been my go-to guy a few times this year, hasn't he, on the hard courts, Jaume Munar. Anybody that watched the Ben Shelton match last night would have noticed, obviously, that he was extremely fortunate to get through against Mike Schack. Mike Schack, 2 match points in the tie break. I think it was 6-4. Ball in hand, good serve, mediocre return from Shelton. Mike Schack comes into the net to volley it away for game, set, and match, puts it long. And I mean, the amount of times Shelton gets stuff like that happen to him is quite incredible. He does seem to get more than his fair share of fortune in tight situations. I mean, Mike Schack should have put that away all day long. You know, if that was just a routine point at any other stage in the match, he would have put that volley away without even thinking about it. Puts it long, ends up losing, a few minutes later. Some of that might be the way that Shelton kind of presents himself on court, all energy, ripping the crowd up, positive energy, it is a factor, I think. It does make him slightly more difficult to beat. It's kind of an intangible, but you compare that body language to someone like Zverev, who's looks like he'd rather be just about anywhere else on this planet than on a tennis court most of the time. And Mike Schack was unlucky. He edged it 101-99 in terms of service points won and return points won totals, but you got to win the points that matter, and he quite honestly choked that volley at the end, and that cost him the match. Shelton only winning 40% on second serve, and not a surprise because he's been out a while. And he said after the match, when you're trying to find your rhythm again, it can be tough. when you're playing guys at the end of the season who are in form and you've taken some weeks off, even if the match was a loss today, I was happy with how I competed and played, which suggests that he's not expecting to win this tournament. He's coming in and trying his best to get back into rhythm, presumably for the tour finals, and just generally. And Munar, as you said, has caused him a lot of problems, and Munar needs matches as well. He's playing in the Davis Cup finals. He's in the Spain squad with Alcaraz, which will obviously be played on indoor hard. So he's a player that the season isn't finished for. Not by any means, and he played very well in round one against an inform opponent, Bertola. Sorry, a lot of people won't be that familiar with him, Bertola, but he had some very good wins in qualies, and then Munar blew him away. 80% first serve points won there. Faced just the one break point in that match. Jaume Munar. The head-to-head, even if you discount the clay match, which you would probably expect Munar to win on clay, although he's changed his profile a little bit in the last year, I would say, Munar, but Munar won easily on clay against Shelton. Take that out of the head-to-head, just concentrate on the two that were played on hard courts. And it's Munar that leads over the course of the two matches. Only a tiny lead, 100.6 to 99.4 in terms of service points won and return points won totals across those two matches, so a very slender lead for Munar. Both men holding serve 90% of the time in those two matches, but only winning 31% of return points, so very much a serve-dominated encounter, both of those matches that they've played. Moving on to the stats generally over the last 12 months, it's also a slight advantage for Munar. If we just look at matches played at main level in the last 12 months on outdoor hard and indoor hard, Munar, service points won and return points won total of 104, Shelton 103. So where are we getting minus 240 from? Ben Shelton. It's just a name, isn't it? The name of Ben Shelton against Munar. The fact that conditions are on the lively side in Basel, but they weren't exactly slow in Dallas when Munar won 6-2, 7-6. So it all points to Munar. It's just a question of what bet I'm going to take here. I might do a little split stake. Munar to win plus 185 for half a point, and the other half a point on Munar plus 2.5 games on the spread, which is plus 102. I think that's probably the way I'm going to go, unless you're going to advise me differently.
Well, I think the only problem with Munar plus 185 is the wrong price for me. And I think if you've taken the price of plus 185 now, you'll be having a voucher or a betting slip of around about plus 150. I think that's the kind of price he's going to start, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. But the only problem with Munar is that when the finishing line gets close, he gets tight.
That's true.
And especially against big players. So Ben Shelton is a big player. When he realises he can beat Ben Shelton, he might get a little bit tight. I think the big question is how motivated Ben Shelton's going to be. And judging by the quotes that you said there, I don't think his motivation is as high as it might be. He might be, might want a recovery. Now got a nice new girlfriend. Get a bit of time with her, go on holiday, relax a little bit. He's not going to get into the Tour Championships. He's not going to get, he'll play at Paris, but I don't think he's going to be off the yard there. But that would be my worry for Ben Shelton. So I quite like the plus 185. I think you're going to trade out at some stage at a short price. So I like the money line, but my worry would be that he is mentally is going to freeze against him. But like strategy.
True. Yeah, he does. He does do that. I've seen him do it numerous times. Obviously, he beat Ben Shelton in his own backyard on this surface. Won the second set tiebreak 7-3. So maybe he was just so far ahead there that he didn't get a chance to choke. But I watched him against Marijan at Wimbledon. He was miles ahead of Marijan at Wimbledon. He still took him. I think it was something like 11 match points. It was a ridiculous amount. I remember sitting there Instagramming each match point, just waiting for him to take it. And the two guys next to me were sort of doing the same thing, and we just kept looking at each other going, is he going to take this one or what? Because we were there for about 20 minutes. So yes, he certainly does have that in him, but yeah, I think you got to take the value where it's there.
Now, the next match up is a repeat of the second round of the US Open between Valentin Royer and Denis Shapovalov. On that occasion, Denis Shapovalov came through a tight match, 2 tie-breaks in a 4-set match. But since the defeat in the Flushing Meadow, Royer's been in a bit of a good form. Got to the final of Hangzhou, got to the second round of Shanghai. We got beat by Zverev, got beat by Bonzi in the last 16 at Brussels and he come through a tough opening round here against Collignon. If you look at that head-to-head, that is the only previous time they've met. Shapovalov, on the other hand, isn't the end in the season in great form. He got to the semi-finals in Stockholm, beat by Casper Ruud, but prior to that, not really in the best of form. Looking at the odds here, he is a favourite though, Denis Shapovalov, minus 180. Valentin Royer is plus 143, 2.5 the spread, 23.5 the total. Very similar to the odds that we just had there on the Munar match. This match, again, the order of play is 6 a.m. Eastern time. We do not know who plays who yet. So if you do like anything on the BetRivers app, anything today, not only these matches, on other matches, you have to make sure you get onto that app now and get the bets down. And remember, if you do bet with BetRivers, you can bet live and watch live. I like what I see from Valentin Royer. I think he's a decent player. End of season, plus 143. I might take a chance on the Frenchman.
Yeah, I'm tempted by Royer here a little bit. Two very aggressive players here going head-to-head. I expect a close match here. I watched a fair bit of Shapovalov yesterday against Marcos Giron. He had to come from a match point down. I tried to bet Shapovalov at match point down, actually, but the bet didn't go through. And I was Lagan came in and he was talking to me about something. And I tried to put the bet on, and Lagan was going, "What?" You know, because he's kind of interested in this now. He's like, "Oh, who's your man, Daddy?" and all this sort of stuff. And by the time I'd kind of got back to the screen, I was very happy because I thought, yeah, got an excellent price here on Shapovalov, but the bet didn't go through. So, yeah, I spent 15 minutes cheering on Shapovalov.
Blaming Lagan.
Well, it was his fault. I mean, you know, if he hadn't put
it out, it's Christmas coming up. Take it out. Take the winnings out of his Christmas presents.
Yeah, that's fair.
To be fair, he doesn't want a West Brom third kit this year. He doesn't want one.
He's actually, funnily enough, he's had a West Brom third kit delivered yesterday.
Oh.
So
he would have had a tracksuit as well if he let you get the bet on.
He wouldn't wear a West Brom tracksuit. I don't think it's not cool enough.
But he wear a third kit.
He likes kit. He loves kits. Give him any football kit. You know, he'll wear it. Loves them. Where was I going here? Yeah, I mean, two very aggressive guys. You know, Royer, very, very aggressive, goes for everything. Shapovalov, you know, pretty similar, but obviously left-handed. The head-to-head is a little bit misleading, actually, that US Open match, because Royer did have a shoulder injury during that match that kind of stopped him from serving the way that he normally would. And Shapovalov ended up winning it sort of relatively comfortably in terms of the service points won and return points won. It was 106 to 94. But Shapovalov's first serve did most of the work for him in that match. He won 82% on first serve, Shapovalov, only 44% on second serve versus 51% for Royer. So you could argue that Royer was slightly the better player from the back of the court. And of course, Royer's first serve wasn't as effective because he had that shoulder problem. Now let's see what he can do when they're both fit, assuming that they're both fit. Shapovalov had a back issue last week in Stockholm. Looked absolutely fine yesterday. Looked very pumped up, actually, against Giron. It didn't look like an end-of-season match at all. You know, they were both going for it. I mean, poor old Giron does lose. He loses. I'll have to check it out. He loses so many matches in the final set tiebreaks or late on in matches or from big leads. He really does need to work on that side of his game. But Shapovalov was very pumped up for it indeed. But if we're also looking at the last 10 main level matches, which is probably the only relevant thing to look at as far as Royer is concerned, he's kind of broken through relatively recently. Service points, 70% win rate for him in his last 10 main level matches. Service points won and return points won total of 103 and 88% holds of serve. Very impressive statistics. Shapovalov, 60% win rate, slightly better total on 104, but strangely only 75% holds of serve. Oddly, it's Shapovalov's return that's been doing the business for him lately. He's won 41% of return points in those matches, which is a lot. But you would have to consider that he's faced the likes of Leo Borg and Elias Ymer, you know, not very strong servers at all. That's perhaps boosted his return points total a little bit. Moving on to the sort of matchup thing, Royer has won 7 of his last 11 matches against left-handers, won his last 2 at main level, but they were both a very different style of player than Shapovalov. Muté and Tien, both more sort of return-oriented players, more of a physical rally-type players than the more explosive Shapovalov. I think this is going to be very close. I think the way to go here, either take a punt on Royer plus 143 or take the over 2.5 sets at plus 123 with Bet Rivers. I think this is going to be tight. I have been burned quite a bit by Shapovalov. I don't really want to be betting in a match involving him particularly, but those are the people that do. Those are the ways that I would approach it.
There's a couple of leans to get with Shapovalov and the Royer match. A difficult match to call. I quite like the overs. I know it's quite high, 23.5, but I think this could be definitely a way to go into 3 sets, whichever way you want to choose.
Yep.
I think that's a good one. Let's move on to our second tournament this week. It's over in Vienna, a 500. Before I do that, I want to remind you about subscribing to our newsletter and our Insider. Betting Weekly newsletter and Insider comes out every Monday and every Friday, and you can get it. It's all of us, all the team contribute to it. Been a bit of form on the newsletter in recent weeks, and it's free to subscribe at bettingweeklystudios.com. All you got to do is just put your email address in there, and you'll be on our data mailing list, and we'll send you it across every Monday and every Friday. And it's free, and it's good. Okay, let's move on to Vienna. Let's have a look at the match we're going to start off with. It's Matteo Arnaldi up against Alexander Zverev, who's having a bad time of it of late. -$4 for Zverev, 3-1 for Arnaldi. 3.5 the spread total here is 22.5. Now, we do have some recent records between the two of these, and they're both this year. And both wins for Zverev. He won in Toronto in 2-1 in a close one, and he won in Acapulco 2-1. In more or less images of the matches, both first sets went down. Now he won them both in a tie break. The second set both went to Zverev. He won 6-3 in both matches, and then he won 6-2 in Toronto in the final set and 6-4 in Acapulco. So he came from a set down to win that. This time around, Zverev is in awful form. He was terrible in that tournament, the Six Kings, which is, he got beat by Fritz, got beat by Rinderknech in Shanghai, Medvedev in Beijing. Didn't impress at all against Fernley in the first round here, and he's only won 1 of 4 matches this year on indoors. Compare that to Arnaldi, who's won 5 from his 7, and he's in good form. He's done through 2 qualification wins against good opponents in Schoolgate and Dijon, and kept that up against Kovacevic. Arnaldi must have a chance here. I know he's run him close already this year, 2 close matches, but he's got to have a chance this time around.
Yeah, I think he's got a part to play in this match for sure. I mean, these 2 matches we're talking about in Vienna are kind of all there is. Unfortunately, with the way that the schedule has worked out, there are ways to approach them. But Zverev is a very difficult guy to kind of pick at the minute to try and figure out what he's going to do, because he's certainly nowhere near his best at the moment. He was very up and down in a match that I watched, obviously last night against Jacob Fernley, and it's the same old story with Zverev. You know, when he takes it to the opponent, as he did at times against Fernley, then he looks a top player, and then he goes back to being passive again, and you just think, well, why? You know, indoor hard, reasonably quick conditions. Massive serve, massive forehand. When he decides to hit it, you know, far too often he just decides that that's not the way I want to play. I'll just camp out 4 or 5 meters behind the baseline and wait for the other guy to miss. And it's so frustrating. It must be very frustrating to be in his camp. You know, he only won 1 more point overall than Fernley last night, and he's been complaining of a shoulder injury recently in that Six Kings. And the latest thing he said was after the Fernley match, he said, "I didn't know I was going to play until today at the warm-up. There was a lot of uncertainty. I didn't practice with any players the whole week. I'm still feeling my body a lot, unfortunately, but I'm happy to get through, and I feel like it was a good test." Again, it doesn't sound particularly ebullient from him, does it? Not that he ever is, but you know, it doesn't sound great. I mean, I don't think he was injured against Fernley. He didn't look hampered to me by a shoulder injury. But Arnaldi should be a good test as well. I mean, he's now won 3 matches in a row for the first time since Madrid back in April. You know, he's been on a real kind of downer of form the last sort of 6 months or so. And as you said, he's taken the opening set off Zverev both times they've met. But once that opening set's got out of the way, it's kind of been one-way traffic for Zverev. The service points won and the return points won totals of those 2 meetings, 105-95 in favour of Zverev. And I think the key stat of those 2 matches is the fact that Zverev has held serve 97% of the time against Arnaldi. And it certainly isn't quick in Acapulco, where they played the first time. It's dead slow there at night. It's hot. It's humid. It's not quick. and he's held serve 90% of the time, 97% of the time, sorry. Arnaldi only winning 29% of return points, so he's had no real clue about on the Zverev serve. Then you look at what Zverev's done in the last 10 main level matches. It's not good. 50% win rate and a service points won and return points won total of 98. That's way down on what you would expect him to achieve. Arnaldi, not that great either. 30% win rate and a total of 97. But on the last sort of month or so, form, there's not much between them really. I expect Zverev will get this done. I don't think it'll be easy. I don't think anything's coming easy to him at the minute. I would probably go with a bet builder here. Zverev to win the match and over 21.5 games is a plus 137 chance of Bet Rivers. That would be where I'll be headed. I think Zverev will do it, but I think he'll cause himself problems along the way.
You can just bet the over 22.5 at plus 102. Don't worry about who wins it.
You could do that. Over. Yeah, I like a chunkier price though, Nigel. You know that.
Yeah, well, I think Arnaldi might give him probably. You don't want to be over 22 and then Arnaldi win it.
Well, you don't, but I don't see that happening. But there we are.
Well, there you go. There's two options there. You can go. Both agreeing with the match could be quite long there. 21.5, 22. Zverev to edge it for Sean. And remember that match start. Well, the play over in Vienna starts at 7 a.m. Eastern time. So 6 a.m. for tournaments in Basel, 7 a.m. in Vienna. Now, our final match is a little bit uninspiring as far as betting is concerned. It's another short price favourite. This time it's Lorenzo Musetti, but this is all we've got at this moment in time when we're recording this. We can't. People say, "Oh, why don't you pick that game? Why don't you choose that game?" Well, this is all we've got at recording at 1 o'clock in the UK to get this across to go up live. Not go live, but go up on the website live. Minus 335 Lorenzo Musetti, 245 for Tomas Martin Etcheverry is the price of the Musetti v Etcheverry match. 3.5 is the spread, 22.5 the total. Musetti yesterday was due to play Stefanos Tsitsipas withdrew from the tournament, which meant Musetti came through against Medjedovic. He's up against Etcheverry here. Etcheverry's had an indifferent season. He showed a little bit of form by reaching the quarterfinals last week in Stockholm. The conditions might not suit him here, might be a little bit more quicker than there. Musetti does lead the only previous head-to-head, though. He beat him again this year. We've got a lot of matches this time around that they played this year. Musetti won 7-6, 6-2 in Madrid on the clay. A little bit different, but Musetti is the favourite. Obviously, he needs the win to enhance his place in the Tour and Championships, which are in Italy, in his homeland. So he's going to be motivated for this week. Heavy favourite. Do you see any problems for him this one?
Not unless he's fatigued, which he could well be, given the effort he's put in to try and reach those Tour finals. The problem with this one, I think, is that Etcheverry is the kind of opponent that Musetti has struggled with in the past. Not necessarily in recent months, but certainly in months and years gone by, he has struggled with a kind of solid grinding style of opponent, like a sort of Munar or Laszlo Djere. Those players have had success against Musetti by just waiting for him to miss, basically. Particularly on the backhand side, the single-hander. It's a thing of beauty, but it can produce errors. Sometimes he's been a little bit impatient. Musetti and Djere and Munar and these sort of guys have taken advantage. Etcheverry is that kind of player, I would suggest. Musetti did win handily when they met in Madrid, earlier on this season. But looking at that match in sort of context, Etcheverry had lost 7 of his previous 10 matches at that stage of the season. He was struggling. Etcheverry now is in form. He's probably playing the best tennis now that he's played all year, I would say. If we look at what he's done in the last 10 main level matches, Etcheverry, 60% win rate, service points won and return points won, total of 101. It's pretty good for a player ranked, 60 at the minute. Should probably be a little bit higher than that, but he has struggled earlier on in the early part of the season. But Musetti's stats very good as well. Same win rate, 60%, but service points won and return points won, total of 105. And the big improvement for Musetti lately has been the serve. The first serve, which he changed mid-season, he kind of changed the technique a little bit. 89% holds in his last 10 matches, Musetti, which is a big improvement. Second serve points won, also excellent, 61%. So he's in great form as well. Both these players are playing somewhere near their best at the minute. And as you said, motivation is high for Musetti here in the race to Turin, but on the other side of the coin, Etcheverry's season isn't over either. He's in the Davis Cup squad for the Davis Cup finals there, as is Musetti. So there's plenty of tennis still to be played for these two guys. And what would worry me about minus 335 is that Musetti, he has talked about being tired in recent weeks, and he must be getting a little bit fatigued, the amount of tennis he's played. I don't think he's an absolute certainty just because of the fatigue factor. Again, it's similar to the Zverev. If he's got the energy, I'd probably take a bet builder here. Musetti to win the match. And again, over 21.5 games, plus 153, that is a bet Rivers. That's probably where I'd go in this one. It's a little tricky with Musetti's kind of potentially coming towards the end of his energy. And if he is lacking in energy, someone like Etcheverry will make this very, very physical. So that could be a danger. But yeah, I'd probably take the bet builder there.
There's a couple of bet builders for us. First bet builders we've had on the show in Vienna. So head across to the BetRivers website, download that app to get those bet builders and plus money bet builders as well. Good ways to get with the favourite, Lorenzo Musetti, and good ways to get with Alexander Zverev rather than take them on the money line. Obviously in Basel we have our only official play with 2 bets, haven't we? So we've got 2 bets split. So if you could just give us our official bets for tomorrow or Thursday.
Yeah, I'm just going to take half a stake on each. On each of 2 in the Jaume, keep calling him Jamie, Jaume Munar match against Ben Shelton. Just the money line for Munar, which is, I think, plus 185, if I remember correctly. And the handicap as well. So 2.5 games at plus 102. So a couple of bets, half a stake in the same match.
Yep, there it is. That is it for this week here on Betting Weekly Game Bet Match. We are back on Sunday with a preview of the final 1,000 a year in Paris. And Sean, we'll be catching Sean before he heads on a flight to go to Paris to give us all the rundown over there in the City of Love. And Sean will be there in the City of Love. At Because We Win Perfect is where you want to go. Yeah, perfect place. Tennis, isn't it? Love, 15 love, 30 love. That's the only, if you want to get following Sean, you can on our socials at Because We Win, on our Instagram, on our Twitter feed as well. Sean will give you some exclusive picks and insights there. At new venue this year in Paris. Where is the venue this year?
It's La Défense Arena, so it's over the other side of the city from Bercy and that lower dungeon that they used to have over there. So I'm hoping that this is, it's a much bigger arena, really big arena. So I'm hoping that particularly the outside courts, I think there's 3 outside courts away from the centre court. I'm hoping they're going to be better than the lower dungeons that were in Bercy. So yeah, new venue should be interesting.
New venue, you can follow that at Because We Win on our socials. Remember as well, please hit the subscribe button. I keep asking you to do it. It's very important to hit the subscribe. The more subscribers we get, the more shows we can do for you. And also, remember the newsletter and the insider available for free at bettingweeklystudios.com. Loads of content coming your way. Soccer, Betting Weekly Extra Time, Betting Weekly Premier League, Betting Weekly Live, Betting Weekly Tennis Live, Betting Weekly Live again, stateside version, as well as the dojo every Monday. You got it here, number 1 place for sports betting at content. Enjoy the rest of your week, Sean. Safe travels. I think I'll speak to you before. I'll speak to you on Sunday and when we preview the 1,000 in Paris. But for today and for this week in Basel and Vienna, that's been it. And I've been waiting all week to do Vienna. It means nothing to me.